and I guess like our perspective. I need to make sure we're recording. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we wanted to share our perspective on it.
What do you? Are you gonna edit that?
Oh yeah. Okay. So.
You should put that on Facebook.
Why?
Like, recently?
Yeah. Actually, we can talk about it right now. Okay.
Don't say that word though.
Oh yeah. So hey, it's me, Nina. This is my brother.
Hi, how you guys doing?
It's Chris. He's not actually depressed, even though he sounds really upset. So.
I'm a little depressed with what happened.
I mean, oh yeah, yeah. I guess you are. I don't think like the comment was related to what just happened. By what just happened. Yeah, it's just the internet, you know.
You should explain what happened though.
Oh yeah. So I got a comment on one of my videos that called me an Indian.
N-word Indian. Yeah.
N-word Indian, and told me to get off the internet. So that was my first hate comment directed towards me. It was.
I mean, that could just be trolling in general.
Yeah, I think it was.
That's the thing about
I didn't think of it as related to
Yeah, the election of Trump.
No,
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but that is what we're talking about. We want to share our perspective on Trump being elected president. Me as an educator and also as a Christian. You as someone with like a lot of political and historical knowledge.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean.
Yeah, right. Like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also teach history, but but my expertise is in special education. But yeah, so for me, I work in New York City public schools, and I think a lot of students were really confused because when you think of a Trump voter, I guess like there's a particular picture that comes to mind.
It's not a flattering mental image.
Oh no, you like.
Which is part of the problem in terms of trying to understand what happened. I think that maybe we characterize Trump voters a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, I told my students that like a lot of times like we have schemas, and like mentally we need that because every time you see something with 4 legs, like you don't have to go through the mental energy of categorizing. Okay, this is a chair, I sit on it. So with Trump voters, like we think, okay, someone is a Trump voter, they're racist, they're sexist, they're whatever. But that's not necessarily the case. We actually, our uncle voted for Trump.
We have family members that voted for him. I know quite a few people that voted for him, which came out after the election.
Oh yeah. That's another thing too. I think that there was a lot of shame for people who voted for Trump. I mean, I did not vote for him, so people just didn't feel comfortable saying if they didn't.
Not in New York. I mean, it's a blue state, so. Yeah. I don't think this excuses voting for Trump, but it does explain it, and I think that's important. Like I think that's going to be definitely one of the interesting challenges in the next 4 years is like navigating that fine line between acceptance and appeasement, right? Like there's a difference. Like accepting that he's our president is one thing, but like there's certain parts of his presidency, of his proposed policies that are unacceptable, right?
Yeah. I talked with someone who we really respect who voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to us why he voted, but still didn't,
Yeah, and I will say that he seemed very hesitant.
To even say it. Yeah.
And he was a little cavalier about it, to be honest. He was a little bit He was like, this is going to shake up the system. He's like, there's only one way to find out. For people who feel like very grief-stricken about what happened, I think that for them, this is a life and death situation, right? Like, they're fearing for their safety.
But that's another thing too. I think people assume that it was white Christian America that voted for Trump, but
it mostly was.
But there are a lot of minorities who. There's actually, I'll see if I can link it. A Muslim woman was explaining why she voted for Trump.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people who, like, I would think Trump hates you, or like that's what I imagine. I could be wrong, but they voted for him.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think that analyzing why Trump won. That's going to be something that's going to take literally decades to really tease out. There's so many components to this. I mean, everything from like the fact that white Americans have been economically disenfranchised to nationalism as a movement to
What do you mean, like in terms of nationalism?
The idea that, like, for example, the liberalism has advanced this narrative of multiculturalism, that borders are artificial, that we're all part of the same human race. Which is, I'm sympathetic to that view, but if you have a loyalty to your country, then Hillary Clinton and her views and her internationalism and her globalism is a threat. You see that as a way. You see that as something that erodes something that you love, your nation and your nation's identity.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people were like scared about the Syrian migrants and they were afraid about immigration. Like some of it is racist, some of it is literally bigotry, but some of it is also this fear that like they'll wake up in America where they don't feel at home. But those people, maybe we should have. I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
like just like legitimize their fears, I guess, or like try to be empathetic, like. But
to acknowledge that some of it isn't pure racism. Some of it, there's a lot of bigotry there.
Or like there's like.
But as an American, like I don't speak any other language. Like
I don't me either.
So as a result, like
we grew up speaking a different language, but
and so I mean, obviously their fears, I think, don't necessarily track with reality.
Yeah.
But I could sympathize with the fear of like waking up one day and seeing, not feeling at home in my own country. You know.
Yeah.
So again, this is not excusing the vote. Voting for Trump. I think it was a mistake. I genuinely. Think, but I think the left has to find a way to adapt to what happened. We have to learn the right lessons.
I think that's like kind of like I said, our next step portion, because like making a video and talking about this, like that doesn't really do anything. But I guess now the next step, like what do you do after something like this happens? And I think for me, I've been really ignorant, to be honest, with a lot of political issues and like apathetic about it. And for me, like there's organizations like the Young Turks, and you can get involved if you want to. You could be a part and be active and have your voice heard in politics instead of like being a bystander like I was for a really long time and currently am until I actually do something.
I think that if you are a Hillary supporter / if you support, if you were against Trump, then I think the correct response to what happened is accept the fact that he's our president, because we can't change it unless he gets impeached.
Yeah.
And that's not something that we can influence, right?
Yeah. So how do you feel about all the protesting and things like that?
That's totally okay. That's a democratic activity. I mean, the vast majority of protesters aren't violent. They're not violent. They're just marching in the streets, and what they're saying, they're sending a signal that certain elements of Trump's campaign are morally unacceptable, and they never will be acceptable. And that's really what we have to. I would say the people who are wondering what to do, I think the first thing you should do is try to focus on the possibility of common ground, because I think there is possibility. I think there's a genuine possibility for common ground. However, also to remind yourself that like if Donald Trump tries to enact things that are unconstitutional or a violation of fundamental human rights, like, steel yourself to resist that. I will not accept if Donald Trump tries to implement unconstitutional or bigoted policies, then resist.
Okay.
Then protest.
How do you feel about the fact that like the House of Representatives, the Senate, like the President, they're all Republican? How do you feel about that?
I think that you should remember that like the Republicans, they definitely control all these houses, but at the same time, I think that Trump is probably way more liberal than the Republicans. And I think that if it was just Mike Pence that was elected, that'd be a different story. But Donald Trump he's all over the place politically. He was a Democrat till 2009. I think that he is going to. He's actually going to give my suspicion is that he's going to give the Republicans a run for their money. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. He might be, or maybe Mike Pence can like wrangle him. Really, like he's going to suggest policies. He's already suggested policies that are way more liberal than what these guys have supported, right? So that's going to be interesting. And also, don't underestimate. Even though the Democrats are a minority, do not underestimate the power of because remember, they have something called filibustering, which means that they can, if they try to implement a law, if the Republicans try to implement a law, Democrats can refrain from voting on that law. Like they can just keep talking and filibustering is literally just talking and talking, delaying voting on a law.
So they still have power.
So that's what they did during the Bush presidency. They were in a minority at a certain point, and that's what they did. They just filibustered like crazy.
Hopefully this all recorded. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, suggestions, or whatever, please feel free to write them down below. And yeah, like